2015's Son of Saul concerns an Auschwitz prisoner forced to burn the corpses of his own people, who tries to rescue a body he takes to be his son's from the furnace. The film, a Hungarian production, was the directorial debut of Laszlo Nemes and was shot by Matthias Erdei. It was released to acclaim from audiences and critics alike, going on to take its place as one of the most bold and authentic portrayals of the Holocaust to be put on film. The portion I'm going to dissect is a 30-second excerpt from the opening 10 minutes of the film, as Saul assists in cleaning a gas chamber following a mass execution. As in the case with much of the film, we do not cut away from the action, but rather, Nemes holds along on the action as it occurs, framing the story through Saul's eyes by keeping the camera tightly bound to the main character, never giving us respite from the harrowing experience of the Sonderkommando at Birkenau. The visual language of the film is a study in subjective camera work, creating a totally immersive experience through the establishment of a precisely designed dogma of self-imposed rules by the filmmakers. In his own words, Nemes says, the film was not to look beautiful or appealing, and that the film's point of view could not wander beyond the limits of the perspective of Saul himself. One of the first things you'll notice about the film visually is the unique, raw and organic aesthetic that the film possesses. This is the culmination of Nemes's uncompromising vision, controlling each aspect of the film's production. From the conception of the story, Nemes made it clear that shooting on film was an indispensable part of the treatment. He even went as far as to say that he wouldn't make the film if he couldn't shoot on film. In the end, Nemes and Erdei elected to shoot on 35mm 4perf Kodak Vision 3 500T 5219 stock, on mainly the Aricam LT. Choosing the 5219 film instead of a slower stock gives the film a low contrast and colour saturation that's a perfect match for the film's palette of washed out greys and browns. Another characteristic of the Kodak stock is that it has a distinctive and consistent grain structure, which adds more stylistic continuity to the look of the whole film. Their workflow also involved a fully photochemical finish, maintaining the exact intended quality of the image to the point of exhibition. Erdei summed it up well in an interview, saying, "Every work of art has its own form. It was not by chance that Rembrandt painted with oil. He thought oil paint on canvas would reflect most accurately what he wanted to show of the world. In the same way, the celluloid that the movie was shot on is an indispensable component in the work." Another decision intrinsically linked to film stock is aspect ratio. The native aspect ratio of the 5219 film is 1.37:1, which was, from the off, the ratio that Nemes wanted to shoot in. This narrower aspect ratio is seldom seen in the modern era of widescreen filmmaking, and lends the film an old-world feeling, unfamiliar to modern audiences. Moreover, this narrower image also adds a claustrophobic feel to the visuals, limiting our field of view, meaning that the foreground is dominated by Saul's back, marked with the unmistakable red cross. Saul's experience becomes ours as we follow him around this environment. This decision helps to subjectivise the language of the film, immersing the audience in Saul's point of view. Another decision that goes hand in hand with the stock is the glass. Erdei elected to shoot the majority of the film on a single lens, a 40mm t1.3 Zeiss Master Prime. The reasons for this are twofold. Firstly, the Zeiss glass enables a very precise recording of reality with a clean image, free of any distracting artifacts or strange bokeh. In addition, Erdei suggests that the 40mm offers the closest translation of reality, that renders the action without magnifying it or distorting it. As such, the cinematography further removes the barrier between content and experience, immersing the audience in the brutal reality of the situation. After extensive lens tests, they elected to shoot this scene, and indeed all the interiors, at t2.0, ensuring that the gruesome acts that are being perpetrated around Saul are not shown to the audience but rather implied, even when they do occur on screen. In an interview with American Cinematographer, Erdei suggests that the lens remains focused on Saul, almost always in close-up or tight medium, while the horrors unfolding in the background are out of focus. The result is that the filmmakers powerfully harness the imagination of the audience on an individual level, each person filling in the blanks to conjure an image that is far more potent and shocking than it possibly could have been if they had showed every act explicitly. In order to facilitate shooting at this aperture, the camera department used a Tiffin ultra contrast filter. This filter, as well as lowering the exposure, has the effect of lowering the contrast between the highlights and the shadows, allowing the film to capture a greater range in the bright scenes, and also adding a dull, low contrast aesthetic that underpins the visuals of the entire film. The set of the gas chamber, designed by Laszlo Roik, is a grim and monotonous environment. The darkly coloured walls and floors seem to shrink the space, while the industrial, bare fittings of practical lights give the feeling of a large-scale operation. A metal bucket filled with blood-red water serves to further communicate the story to the audience visually. A dead body lies naked on the floor out of focus. The death manages to invade the frame from every angle, even as the camera seems to try to avoid it, rendering it all the more powerful. In addition, the dull uniforms serve to strip the workers of their identity, each indistinguishable from the last, with the exception of the unavoidable red X that marks Saul's back, as ominous as it is intriguing. There is also a piece of cloth fixed to Saul's mouth, creating a visceral sensory experience, challenging the audience to imagine the retch-inducing smell that must fill the space. Erde carefully designed the spatial geography of the camera work, opting for tight compositions, close up on the protagonist. The movement of the camera is constant and always motivated by Saul's own movement. This removes the barrier of perspective between subject and audience. Erde, who operated the majority of the shots personally, describes the tightly choreographed camera work as a ballet between actor and camera.
During these very early rehearsals, I felt that if I am reacting to what Geza was doing, I'm already late. So in a way, I had to be anticipating his next step or his next move.
In addition, by focusing the lens approximately 2.5 feet from the film plane, objects are still visible but blurred out. This, twinned with the tight proximity to lead actor Geza Rohrig, created a background that is soft and very difficult to read.
Basically, the fundamental idea was chaos. So nothing that is surrounding this character is understandable. So all the languages, there are 8 languages in the film, and he's never sure where he is. He's lost, he's always lost. And by making these choices, we try to create an atmosphere for the audience that is a bit similar to what the character must have been going through.
Erde's ability to light the set was greatly inhibited by the constraints of the long drawn-out takes, moving through and panning around the entirety of the space. The gas chamber lighting was designed to be shadowless, industrial style. Erde bounced HMIs off the ceiling, motivated by the practical light fittings built into the set to create a strong flood. The result is an unflattering light that fills the central area of the set. After this, a variety of small tungsten heads and LEDs were used to fill subjects and shape the shadows. One of the main purposes is to emphasise the corpses lying on the floor, their white skin bright and prominent, even as a soft background element. Lastly, there are a couple of small practical fittings installed to add some more depth and motivation to the frame, with on-screen sources. All in all, the lighting couldn't be further from the ideals of conventional beauty lighting. Indeed, across the production and cinematography of the film, the notion of creating images that are beautiful or appealing is rejected, in favour of creating truly immersive, experiential, and authentic work.